Hey writers, welcome to episode number 38 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron and I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm talking to Jason Gurley, who is a friend of mine through his wife. We're in the knitting community together. And I remember, actually, this just occurred to me. I didn't think of it when I was talking to Jason, but I was at the store where his wife worked, which was in my hometown before they moved and I moved. And she said, my husband wrote a book. And I remember, I just remember hearing that and thinking, okay, your husband wrote a book. That's great. I hear that a lot from a lot of people. I wish him the best. And her face was just so proud. She goes, he's doing really well. And Jason really was doing really well. He's one of those people whose book, Eleanor, which I love, just kind of blasted into the stratosphere and was picked up by traditional press, Crown Publishing, and now he's writing to contract, traditionally published. And I just couldn't be more pleased for him. It was just a joy to talk to him, and I say it over and over again in the interview portion, but I highly recommend the book Eleanor. I was transported by it. I think that if you've ever loved a dark family tale with secrets and mystery, but with that hint of magic, like Madeline L'Engle and, Anne McCaffrey. The feeling of Anne McCaffrey, not the whole fantasy element of it. Anyway, I love the book. You're going to love the interview. He's a good man. Tiny little update, not too much going on since I last recorded, although I have to tell you that the first 35 or 40,000 words of the thriller I sent to my agent a couple weeks ago, and she got back to me on them and she loves it. She had a couple of small things, which, like up the tension here and up the tension there. And of course, that's all great advice. But my agent is also somebody who is a direct person. She's a straight shooter, and she will say, I'm not connecting with these characters, or what's going on here? What are you thinking? And she didn't. She just wants me to go forward. So apparently I'm in the right place. So that's exciting. I'm right up to the midpoint right now. I'm about to take that big context shifting midpoint at the middle. So I completely don't believe I could do it. Just going to give it a shot. I will be attempting that this week. So I hope that you're writing, whatever you're writing, you're getting a little bit done, or maybe a lot of it done. And that's about it. I got my Patreon essay out there. I'm happy with it, getting good reactions from that. And just writing this life. I'm going to jump into the interview because I apologize. Those noises are my dog Dozy chewing a bone on my foot. So enjoy. Happy writing to you, and we'll talk soon. All right. Well, I would love today to welcome Jason Gurley. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
Hey there. And just a little introduction for you. Jason Gurley is the author of Greatfall, The Man Who Ended the World, and other novels and stories. His best-selling self-published novel, Eleanor, was acquired by Crown Publishing and reissued in 2016. His work has appeared in Lightspeed Magazine and numerous anthologies, and he lives and writes in Oregon with my friend Felicia. So hello to your lovely wife as well.
She says hello as well.
I missed her this last week when she was in town. Well, listeners, again, I know Jason's wife, and I knew about his book, Eleanor, and I got my hands on a copy. Actually, the early Brit version, I believe, was the copy I got. And you guys, it is incredible. I gave Jason a blurb that was something about this made me feel the way that Madeline L'Engle's books made me feel. I was just so swept up in the story and just so knocked out. It was one of there are so few books that keep me nailed down to the bed and I can't get up. I'm one of those people who can just close a book and walk away from it at any time, and I couldn't with yours. So thank you for that. I'm so glad you're on the show.
Well, thank you. That was a really wonderful blurb. And, it meant a lot to me. That the Wrinkle in Time series is still one of those books that gets me every time I pick it up.
And when you and I recently was dipping back into the first one, and it's just still so good. It's so magical, and your book has that magic and that power too.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about your writing process, because that's what we're here to do.
Let's do it.
What is the best time of day for you to write, and where do you write?
My time is fairly well structured. It didn't always, it wasn't always the case that was true. I generally write 2 evenings a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays mostly. And I take one day on the weekend and I write for as long as I'm able to on that day. And the rest of my time I give to my family and to my design career and the other things that quickly occupy a life.
Yeah. So you are very, very busy. Where do you write when you are writing on those evenings or on the weekend?
Right here.
In your
I have a
office?
little office in the bottom story of our house that we recently bought in
Nice.
Scappoose, Oregon. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful up there.
Yeah. Quiet.
Cool. You never leave. You don't go out to the cafe or normally right there.
I used to. I used to lease a little office too, just to get away from the house and get some work done. But there's enough room here for me to spread out and leave a manuscript lying around and not worry about spilling coffee on it or whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. And how do you write? Are you longhand first, computer?
I have tried longhand. I have a novel in progress that has been sort of backburnered for the past year while I work on other things, and that's written all in longhand. In fact, I have all these little
Yeah. See, and I've seen these.
hand doodled notebooks full of things.
Listeners, he says doodles. He is an artist and a really, really good artist, and all of his notebooks have drawings on them, and they're gorgeous. And I've seen these on Instagram. You filling the notebook. So
Yeah.
with that book that you're writing, have you put any into the computer? Or is it just all still living there in notebooks?
The notebook draft is probably the sixth or seventh total rewrite of that particular book. I haven't cracked that one yet. It's waiting for me to figure it out. I'm not quite there yet. But generally I'm writing on the computer. Yeah.
So when you do these rewrites like this, I know you're friends with Carrie Luna, right?
I am.
Yeah, she's one of my besties. And sometimes she'll talk about starting a novel over from scratch, like writing the draft and then starting it over again without really referring back to the previous draft. Is that how you're doing this, or how do you do that?
I have never quite done that. I usually try to salvage from previous drafts what is salvageable. But often when I'm starting a novel over from scratch, so much has changed. It is a different thing. You're just really keeping the little bits and pieces that are universal to what you're writing about.
Yeah, those sparks that sometimes don't even make that in.
Yeah.
How do you refill the creative well when you're running dry?
Goodness. I do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
I spend as much time as I can with my family.
Yeah.
My daughter is old enough now that all of my hobbies are things that she's interested in. So we play video games together, or we go to the movies together, things like that. It's mostly reading. It's time with my family. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. And what is the worst writing advice you've ever been given?
I thought long and hard about this question, because I haven't really gotten a lot of bad craft advice. Most of the craft advice comes from a really good place. Even if it's not applicable to me, it's applicable to someone. But back in my full-time self-publishing days a few years ago, there's so much advice floating around about the business and the mechanics of publishing and the marketing and promotion, and
so much overwhelming amount.
It's overwhelming, and so much of it is it's bandied about with a certain gravitas that I'm not sure it's always earned. So the worst that I've received, I think, would be publish fast, publish often. And I tried that for a little while, and it feels it's very antithetical to, I think, who I am personally as a writer. Yeah.
Good. That's good to find out. And you know what? I hear that every day, everywhere. So
I can imagine.
I'm glad that you rejected that. What secret writing tip of awesomeness did you discover the hard way?
Oh, I'm going to say that editing is amazing.
That's
editing
my secret
magical.
tip that I found out. Yes.
Yeah. Nobody tells you that.
Nobody tells you that. Oh, well, I'm not actually even sure that nobody tells you that, because if they had said it, I wouldn't have listened. It would have just gone in one ear and out the other. How did you feel about revision before you found your chops at it?
I didn't particularly like it.
Yeah.
Revision for me before I figured out how to do it was always page 1, start rewriting the novel.
Yeah.
And usually the novel would get longer if I did that. And that wasn't really the most effective way to go about it.
Not always helpful.
But no, with Eleanor in particular, I think that's where I finally cracked it. I worked on the book for 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of occurred to me one day that if it was going to get completed, if I was going to tie up all these edges, I needed an outline. And as soon as I wrote the outline, I was like, oh God, now I know what I've been trying to write here. And I knew how to do it. And I threw everything away and started fresh. And the book came together in a few months.
Oh my gosh.
So, but it was still several drafts after that, I think, that I really started to unearth all of the nuance to the story and what those themes were that I didn't even know I was writing about.
So are you now, where you're sitting now, are you more of a plotter or a pantser?
A little bit of both.
Yeah,
I usually, the book I'm working on now, I sold based on an outline and a couple of chapters. I'll say I stick with the outline until I can't stick with the outline. And that happens a few times, and then I usually revisit my outlines. I start to sort of tweak that, figure out where I'm going, and adjust as I go. And that usually works for me. There have been a few times I've written myself into a corner, or I've accidentally written another novel altogether.
I know. Isn't that frustrating? I have absolutely done that. I find I get a lot of mileage out of reverse outlining too. I'll have the very vague outline ahead of time, which I completely forget about. And then when the book is done, I'll go back and reverse outline, and then I'll see all the holes or what I missed or what I forgot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My intentions are always good.
Mine too.
Yes. You say you forget about the outline as you're going, and I do a lot of pre-work, and then I kind of forget that it exists. I think
yes.
It's to get me thinking about it mostly.
Well, have you had that crazy experience that I've had a few times where I'll write myself into a corner, and then I'll go back and look at the outline and realize that, the week I've been smashing my head against this, I already had a solution in the outline that I had forgotten completely. Like this smarter version of me had written down at one point, and if I'd looked at it a little sooner, I would have been fine. But yeah, I've done that a few times.
Yeah.
It's hard to have a bad memory. Can you give us a quick craft tip of any sort?
Well, obviously, learn to love editing. However that happens for you, that's a good one. But since we've already talked about that, I won't go there. I would say the most important thing I've discovered is how to keep an idea folder. And
tell us about that, because all my idea folders have always failed because basically it's just a Post-it I stick somewhere and then forget about. So tell us about yours.
I keep mine in Evernote, and I gather everything up by just basic theme. If it's a story idea, whether it's a novel or something bigger, it goes into a story folder.
Okay.
And I write as little as I can about the idea. I keep it as divorced from story as possible.
Ah.
And I find that becomes a nice well that I go to for any project I'm working on at any time, because I'll pull little bits out and build a story out of what I didn't really know that I needed, or I didn't know how to use in the first place. And that's been kind of interesting. It's gotten me out of a lot of jams.
So really trusting your intuition to know what to put in there.
I think so.
And then when to look at it. That's great. I love that you're divorcing it from the story itself. So it's just there.
Sure.
Waiting.
Sometimes it might be the snippet of a scene. It might be just the vaguest idea that I could see being a novel, but I don't have any idea what it is. And I don't let myself go too deep when I'm jotting it down.
That is so cool. I pay for a pro Evernote subscription, and I have never cracked exactly how to use it the best way for me, because every time I go in there I get frustrated, and it's just one of those things. I'm going to figure it out this year.
Yeah.
That's what
I know the feeling. I resisted it for years, and then I cracked it finally, and it was just I couldn't live without it now.
That's what everybody says. Okay, yeah, I'm going to do it today. I'm going to open it today. Okay, on really bad days, what other profession do you wish you had? I know you have two.
I do. I've worked as a designer for about 18 years, and I genuinely love that. I think I wouldn't still be doing it if I didn't.
Yeah.
But I'll put that aside for the moment. If I was having a bad writing day, I'm fortunate enough that I don't have that many bad days. I just have days where, like, I get in my own way. It's not that the writing itself is the struggle. It's me.
Yeah.
Those days, I just want to do something mindless. I just want to chop wood. I just want to dig a ditch. And not to say that people who do these things are mindless,
Right, right.
but they don't have to analyze every swing of what they're doing, and I do that too often.
Right, and then go back and revise the swing and
Exactly.
and get some
So
critique for it.
No.
If you...
Yes. That's pretty much it. That, or I would do anything on a movie set. I would plug in the lights. I would carry the equipment. I would fetch coffee just to be around a movie being made. I think I'd enjoy that.
Oh, that's so interesting. I have no interest in that whatsoever. But you're one of those people that I really hope that you get that chance to like be on set for Eleanor or something else. I know it's a cliche for writers to be told that their book should be movies, but that should be a movie.
I think so too. Maybe,
good.
Maybe one day.
Good. If you were starting over as a new writer right now, what advice would you give baby Jason writer?
I would say to the old me to take in fewer representations of what an author's life is like in popular culture, because they're all wrong. Mm-hmm. Care about things that you can affect. Like, just write. Just try to write. Work on what you're doing and do it better. And stop worrying about what it's like to get a book deal or to sign with an agent or how to announce a thing. All the minutia that exists outside of your control. I was obsessed with all of that stuff. And
I think we all are. I think most writers are.
It's not particularly helpful.
Yeah.
At any stage, is it?
No. The only time it's mildly fun is when you're, say, at a cafe and the pen is in your hand and you're having one clear moment and you think to yourself, "Oh, I'm a writer," and then it goes away because the sentence gets all screwed up. And our writers' lives don't look like writers' lives; they look like our lives.
Exactly.
Right? And I love my life. I love where I am, where I sit right now, and I could never have predicted any part of my life.
Right.
So
it's just about doing the work and being true to yourself. And have you ever seen Wonder Boys?
I love it. Yeah. I love the book. I love the movie so much. It's one of the few movies I'll go back and just watch and rewatch. I wear red cowboy boots because of that movie. I do.
That moment when Rip Torn steps to the lectern and says, "I am a writer." It just gets me every time because I think so many people that's the vision they have of it, and it's just, for me, that's not remotely what it is. And if I had to stand up in front of a crowd on a regular basis, I think I wouldn't be writing, and that would be a problem for me.
Yeah, the most writerly moment I ever had was I was at a HarperCollins party, my first publisher party in New York at the Central Park Boathouse, and it was full of all of these writers who had been there, done that. And I was really, really just starstruck by the whole thing. And that was a very, very nice moment. Let me ask you, this is not in your list of questions, but let me ask you, because I know listeners will be interested to know, what has this trip been like, moving from successfully self-published into traditional published world?
It's been weird, and it's been perfectly ordinary at the same time.
Yeah.
I speak from the position of being not only an author, but someone who designed every, step of his books along the way when I was self-published.
Yeah.
It's really hard to give up the self-control.
I would bet.
It's it's incredibly hard. I've been fortunate. Every cover that I've gotten for Eleanor has been just gorgeous.
Incredible.
But covers. I know how tenuous and finite that can be. And I fully expect every next cover to just be the one that makes me cringe. But I have no control over that, and that was hard. The rest of it has been incredibly interesting and like a daily lesson in just the highs and lows of being a quote unquote traditionally published author. Mm-hmm. It's the farthest thing from what I think most people imagine it could be, and I have found over the past year that has been sort of an unintended blessing.
How so?
Well, it's kept me from getting too wrapped up in all of the same things I described before, and it's given me the space to keep working I'm working on a project now, and the moment I hand that one in, I've got another one to start on and another
Yeah.
deadline to aim for. And I'm not sure that I would be doing that if I had been riding the roller coaster on a daily basis.
Right. Right.
So
Are you still self-published at all?
I do have some books out there, but I
Yeah.
haven't self-published anything in quite a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still
It's
hybrid. I do both. So,
it's nice to know that it's always there for me.
yeah.
If the writing career
Exactly.
catches fire and runs off the
I
track.
have caught fire on quite a few tracks on my traditional career, so I always know that if the tracks are all the way gone, I can get out the buggy and just keep going. But that's a
Exactly.
terrible metaphor. But and what would you like to tell us about right now? I believe that Eleanor is just coming out in paperback, right?
It is tomorrow, in fact.
So listeners,
Yes.
by the time you hear this, Eleanor is live by Jason Gurley, and will you just tell us maybe the elevator pitch for it, or
Yeah, it's oh goodness. It's
I
such a
know
hard
I
novel
should
to
have I
give an
should have
elevator
prepped
pitch
you
for.
for that.
Well, it's the story of a family that has been wrecked by a tragedy a couple of times over, and the 14-year-old girl who's doing her best to sort of hold them together in the wake of all of that, and the very, very strange things that start to happen to her as she gets sort of deeper and deeper into solving her family's grief.
Interesting too, now that I think about it, that I connected so strongly with that 14-year-old girl. And there is always, and I hate that it exists in myself, but it is there that I always enter a book and I think this is a 14-year-old girl and a man is writing this, and I think
Not the
it.
same thing
You felt the same thing too. Oh well,
every
good.
day.
Maybe that's why you got away with it so beautifully, because within 2 pages I'm hooked and 100% believed this girl. But now that I know how long it took you to write, you wrote this before your daughter Squish was even a glimmer in your eye, right?
Yeah. I think if I hadn't become a father, it would have never gotten finished. It,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. And it was a more difficult book to write after becoming a father as well.
I bet.
Being married and happily so.
Yeah.
All of these things were they're just my fears
Yeah.
coming up every page.
Well, maybe that's why it's just so strong.
Yeah.
Writing about fear is the best thing to do, and that's what I personally always want to read.
Yeah.
Where can readers find you and the book?
I'm everywhere.
Okay.
You can find me at jasongurley.com. You can find me on Twitter as jgurley. And if you find me in either one of those places, that will lead you to everywhere else.
Everywhere
And
else.
the book should be everywhere it should be everywhere already in paperback tomorrow.
And again, I just can't recommend it more highly. Thank you so much for spending
Thank
your
you.
time with us and for chatting to us. And say hello to the family for me.
I will do it. They'll say hello or back.
Okay. Take care. Talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.